So President Biden holding 3 meetings with Democrats today, spending 5+ hours trying to unify the party to get his agenda passed. But will the party in control of both houses of Congress and the White House hold themselves hostage to their own divisions? Joining me now, Matthew Dowd, the former chief strategist for President George W. Bush. Matthew, good evening to you. Democrats have the possibility of delivering a massive infrastructure and social program, fulfilling Biden's promises and giving themselves something to campaign on come 2020 and beyond. And yet the whole thing could fall apart. How does this happen?
Well, I guess I should say I'm never surprised at politics, but I always seem to be constantly surprised these days. I mean, it happens when people look at the long term and the long-term gain of the common good in the country. They don't look at it that way, and they have some sort of short-term political considerations of this. I actually think in this case, the so-called moderates in the House and the Senate are making a huge miscalculation in this, because the more successful Joe Biden is, the more apt they're going to be to win their election. So the more they can help Joe Biden get his programs through, the more apt it's going to help them. The idea that they're going to somehow undercut Joe Biden and that's going to help them with voters in their state is just it never pans out. And so if I were giving them advice, is they're going to rise or fall on how at the federal level, at how well Joe Biden does, what he delivers to the American public, and where he stands. And the best way to do that is deliver the package that he's presented, that the majority of the American people in every poll want.
Okay, so are you speaking directly there to the cinemas and the mansions of the world? Because they're going to say, that doesn't play in my district.
I'm speaking to the cinemas and the mansions of the world, and I'm speaking to those House members, whatever there are, 7 or 8, who have raised objections to this. Because if you really look at it, Joe Biden, if they undercut Joe Biden and Joe Biden's numbers drop, it makes it hard on every Democrat, especially the moderates. The first people to lose in line in an election when Joe Biden's numbers fall and he doesn't fulfill his promises isn't the progressives. It's the first people to fall are those people in swing states or swing districts. And those are the people who are objecting to this, when in reality, they're the most vulnerable if Joe Biden doesn't succeed. That's
why don't they know that, Matthew?
First of all, it doesn't make sense. Every single election, when you look at that, every time somebody says, I can't compromise, I live in a moderate district, I'm going to go against what the president says, and this, I'm not going to do this. Every time they do that, they've lost. And every time those people realize that as the president goes, so goes the federal office, they've won. Look at almost every single election. The ability to distinguish yourself by saying, I'm against the president, and that's why I'm doing this, and the president suffers, doesn't happen. So I don't know what example they're looking from, but this is a constant thing in Washington. I'm some guy who's going to do this, and I'm going to rise, and the president will fall, and everything will be okay. It never happens that way.
Interesting perspective there. We saw the bipartisan deal on policing fall apart today as well. Republicans are largely against voting rights. Is this just more evidence that Democrats need to go at it alone and drop the filibuster?
Well, Don, you and I have had this conversation before. Bipartisanship, which I'm all for, and I know you for, in any normal circumstance, we're not in a normal circumstance. And bipartisanship only works as a process to an end. And in order to have bipartisanship, you have to have trust that the other people accept truth and trust that they're willing to work in the benefit of all Americans, not just a select few. And when you have a situation where the Republicans don't believe in truth, don't believe in science, and don't believe in the common good, you have no partner you can deal with. And so when you have no partner, as it is in life, you have to go it alone. And in my view, the days of sort of counting on like the Republicans to go along as some bipartisan agreement in these kind of things is gone. So go it alone. When you don't have a partner you can trust, you need to walk out the door on your own.
I want to ask you a yes or no question, but that's dangerous to ask an analyst or a consultant or contributor.
I'll give you a yes. Okay. I'll give you a yes or no answer.
So if Republicans had the same control Democrats do right now, would they have dropped the filibuster to get their agenda passed, or would they, would they be more ruthless and be in lockstep?
In a heartbeat.
Okay, that wasn't yes or no.
How's
but
that?
That was close enough. It was obvious. Go on.
In a heartbeat. That's three words.
Yeah.
Only 3 words.
Go on. Why do you believe that?
Because they've demonstrated. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans have demonstrated they'll herd their cats all in a row and do whatever it takes. They believe in doing whatever it takes to win. Democrats are still playing by an old set of rules that we're going to somehow keep the norms. Republicans have abandoned those. Democrats can act ethical and can act legal, but they need to give up on the old days that they can somehow do this and succeed. They need to absolutely go it alone when the American public wants action on all these, especially voting rights.
Yeah, the norms are gone. You're absolutely right. And
the norms are gone.
Look at the example of what's happening with the debt ceiling. I mean, look how many times Senator McConnell voted to raise the debt ceiling. Now he's saying, yeah, the debt ceiling will be raised, but it'll be Democrats who's doing it, and he doesn't want to raise it. McConnell has introduced his own bill to fund the government, but not to raise the debt ceiling, despite him being in favor of it before. He's also blasting Biden's handling of the border. I mean, he certainly doesn't mind turning the screws.
I mean, and look what they did, just to reflect back not all long ago, on Merrick Garland. I mean, they didn't allow Merrick Garland, so the Democrats ended up having, 2 or 3 Supreme Court nominees in the case of this, because Mitch McConnell just abandoned it all and did it anyway, and the Democrats in many ways allowed that to happen and didn't fight back in a strong enough way. So we've already seen that McCarthy and McConnell will do anything for power's sake and anything to achieve their ends. Anything. Democrats, I'm not saying they do anything, but they can follow with the law and follow ethics and get something done. And the filibuster is not part of the law and is not part of the Constitution.
Yeah.